Hello, everyone. Good evening. How are you guys doing today? Good. I really feel like I'm having my J-Lo moment. Can we say something about the shoes? I got my mic so we can dance up here, have a good time. No, I'm just kidding. Not that kind of show here tonight. But welcome to session 4. It's the final show here of the State 48 Foundation and BetMGM Entrepreneur Speaker Series, presented by OGeez and Drink in AZ. But raise your hand if you've been out to all 4 sessions. Love it. Extra credit points. I love to hand those out. I don't know if they count for anything here, but you got a high five from me. As you know, this session is brought to you by Edward Jones, produced by Every Impression Counts. And we are live here from the coolest studio here in downtown Phoenix, the Walter Studios, where this has been our home for the last 4 weeks. Every session packed, impactful, and amazing. My name is Lisa Matthews. I'm the host of our State 48 podcast. Are you a subscriber? Other extra points? Subscriber? There we go. All right, 2 more points for you. And today's session is titled Scaling Sustainably. You'll be hearing from 3 Valley business leaders about what it takes to scale your business and the importance of implementing systems and processes along the way. So really the nitty-gritty of what it takes and what it looks like for you as a business owner. But before we get started, I'd like to bring up one of our board members, Amber Cordoba, to tell us a little bit more about the foundation. Amber?
What's up, everybody? How we doing tonight? Happy Wednesday. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm Amber Cordoba, and on behalf of the board, thank you so much for being here today. This is our final session, as you guys know, and it's been amazing, so thank you all for those of you who have showed up multiple times. I just want to take a moment on behalf of the State 48 Foundation Board to thank you for showing up for the foundation tonight, for showing up for yourselves, and for showing up for your businesses. So let's give yourselves a round of applause for being here. Now, I know you guys are here because you want to learn something, you want to be inspired, and because you want to make connections, but how many of you are interested in that grant that comes along? Woo woo. Okay, well, I'm happy to let you guys know that we're going to be sending out applications this week, so make sure that you fill out your surveys, fill out the grant application. If you have questions, need more information, you can find one of our board members, and we're happy to answer any questions for you. Also excited to announce that tickets are launching today for the annual event. You can see the little QR code there on the corner. You guys are the first to know. Early bird pricing, it's going to be $48. It's going to be on November 3rd at Heritage Square in downtown Phoenix, so not too far from here. So pull out your phone, scan the code. You can learn more information about the event. You can buy your tickets. And while you guys have your phones out, if you're not following us on social media, please do so. We have an awesome social media page. Check out Instagram at State 48 Foundation. In addition to the Entrepreneur Speaker Series, we also do events a couple a quarter, similar to this, but smaller in scale. Really great for connection. We also post about our fundraisers. We have our tattoo fundraiser, and we also have our annual poker tournament. So again, thank you all so much for being here, showing up for yourselves. On behalf of the board, again, thank you for making this a fantastic event. Have a great night.
We're gonna do this. All right, thank you, Amber. And just a reminder, too, you're going to see a QR code that's floating around here tonight. Don't you love that this event, we can come together, and it is free? So we would like you to just scan that code. If you have any small contributions, it's my church moment. Give your blessings out to receive the blessings. We love this event and to keep it free, and others as well along the year. So as many of you know, each week we're bringing you a new set of local organizations that can help you on your journey. Arizona has a number of great organizations offering support and services to local business owners. We have a few different organizations set up in the lounge area here tonight, so please be sure to stop by their table and check them out. They may be able to support you in any way along your journey. We have tonight the AZ Commerce Authority. This works with existing companies to grow their business in Arizona and beyond. We also have Local First Arizona. Local First is a nonprofit organization committed to community and economic development throughout Arizona. Their work connects people, locally owned businesses, and communities for meaningful actions that build a diverse, inclusive, and prosperous Arizona economy. We also have tonight Prestamos CDFI. This is an award-winning community development financial institution and community development entity that has provided small businesses loans and high-quality technical support services to business owners in underserved communities since 1980. And our session tonight is sponsored by Edward Jones. So next, let's talk a little bit about the money. As you heard, we're giving out $50,000. Yes, that's huge, you guys, in grant funding this year. Your business could be eligible for up to $10,000, but we have some rules in order to qualify for that as well. Attend at least 3 out of the 4 speaker series. So we already saw some of y'all raise your hands on that. Check that off. That's in person or virtually. Complete at least 3 post-session surveys. Now, these will be emailed out to you tomorrow. Now, if you complete these 2 things, you'll be sent an application after the series ends. Now, quick reminder, some housekeeping rules and things. As people are funneling in, let's not make it awkward for them. Make sure if you guys can just scoot in, fill in the seats so that they can find a seat to sit. Also, restrooms are here. Turn around in the back. Here in this room specifically, make sure we're not just going in and out of these doors during the session, the main doors. And remember, at the end, there will be an opportunity to ask our speakers some questions, a Q&A session. So please write them down and save them for later. And after the main event is also the fun part, networking, mingling, and you also get to meet some of the speakers and pick their brains a little bit more as well. Now it's time for what you all came for. I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker who will be making her way to the stage. Her name is Rebecca Clyde. She is CEO and co-founder of Botco.ai. She is a Latinx entrepreneur making waves in the world of business. Rebecca previously served as co-founder of Ideas Collide and co-managing director of Girls in Tech Phoenix, and was recognized as one of the most influential women in Arizona in 2020. Let's all welcome Rebecca to the stage.
Thank you. It's so great to be among entrepreneurs. This is truly my community, my people. Sometimes I have to spend a lot of time with investors, and I'm always like, can I just get back to being with business owners and entrepreneurs? They get it. I do want to just second the shout out to the Arizona Commerce Authority, Local First, and Prestamos, all amazing organizations as well. Personally, I received grant funding from the Arizona Commerce Authority. It's how we got our company started. It was our first check. So I will be forever grateful to that organization for the amazing resource that they have been to me and many of my fellow entrepreneurs here in Arizona. But today I've been asked to talk to you about scaling. What happens when your business starts to take off? That's actually a good thing. So you've set up shop, you've started your business, what happens next? So I'm going to share a little bit about what my journey has been like, some of the things that we have done at my company at Botco.ai and through our different growth stages, what has worked well, what we are still working on. So I'm going to share a couple of tips there. But first, I thought it might be helpful just to give you a little rundown on what exactly we are all about. Let's see if this, oh, there we go. All right. So at Botco.ai, we are applying AI to help and hold times on the phone. I always say that I'm just replacing basically 150-year-old technology. And the story really begins with me waiting on hold one day, trying to schedule a doctor's appointment for my daughter. They put me on hold, this was at Phoenix Children's, for over an hour, and the call was so long, the wait time was so long that they hung up on me. And I called back again, and then they hung up on me again. So this went on for hours and days and days. And I said, this is not okay. How many people are not getting access to care because they're on hold all the time? Let's fix this. And so what we're doing is applying AI to generate chat experiences that are instant, accurate, personalized, and allow us to get access to the resources and the services that we need to live our life. And so that's what we are essentially doing here at our company. And then let's go to the next slide. Let's see. They said I have to use lots of energy. There you go. Here you can kind of see, and many of you have probably experienced some type of chat in the past. maybe as you were trying to get support for something. But healthcare has typically not really utilized this kind of technology because they've always been afraid of getting the answers wrong. And that's where we really come in. I like to think that we've made it as easy to reach out to your healthcare provider as it is to text a friend. And all of this data is handled securely and privately, so we have a lot of compliance that we have to handle. But our goal is to make healthcare more equitable, more accessible, so that nobody has to wait on hold again. Now let's see. Okay, there we go. So we have several customers here in the Valley, but also customers outside of Arizona. And part of our journey with scaling was doing a couple of things. We actually launched our company in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic when nobody was meeting in person. And so we had to build an organization, a whole company from scratch, essentially, without often even meeting people. There's still to this day half of my team that I have never met in person. And we also have clients and customers using our product that I have never met in person. I've seen them on Zoom a bunch of times and on Google Meet, but I've never had a chance to meet them in person to this day. And yet they use my product, they use our software, and they themselves are also using a digital tool to scale their businesses. So it's almost like a little meta, like our product helps businesses scale, and that's what we're talking about today. One of the things that we learned very quickly as we were thinking about growth was that we noticed there were some things that are a lot, I would say, easier or more manageable to scale, and some things that are not. And so as you're starting to grow your business and you're starting to expand your operations, make a list kind of like this one. This is a short list. There's a lot more things, but I only had 15 minutes, so I couldn't give you the epic version. But one of the things that we have found that scales really well is marketing, for example. We were just thinking about, in fact, I just had a conversation here with one of the attendees about how she could potentially scale her business and get access to a broader audience using potentially like Airbnb experiences or something like that. There's a lot of really great digital tools and digital platforms that can help you scale marketing. We also learned that product development can scale very well. There's a lot of really good process and procedure, and I'll get into that today, of how product development, actually creation of software, can be done scalably. And of course, now with the advent of AI and a lot of these awesome tools like Copilot, that's even happening faster than ever before. But we did find that there's some things that are hard to scale. And I think it's important to recognize these. There's some things that are a little bit more challenging. It doesn't mean they can't scale. It just means you have to be more thoughtful about how you scale them, or at least that was my experience. So for example, we found that customer onboarding could be difficult sometimes. Some customers have different levels of skill. They have different backgrounds. They're not all the same. And so trying to do the same thing with everyone doesn't always work. And so we had to come up with a lot of creative ways to figure out how to do customer onboarding a lot better. And then we also discovered that integrating our software into our customer systems was also difficult, because even though everybody uses Salesforce or everybody uses HubSpot, everybody uses them differently. And so that is not as cookie cutter as we would like. I wish everybody had the same configuration, but of course they don't. And so there's as many variations of people's Salesforce implementations as there are people. So, you can't have one approach to everything. And so those are some places where we found we needed to be a little bit creative in order to be able to scale our business. And we had to implement process. We had to try different things. We had to experiment in order to get it right. All right, so let's see. Energy, there we go. All right, so let's talk about the success stories first. I'm an optimist, so I always like to start with the positive. Scaling marketing. I'm sure many of you here are already doing this. We're big users within our company of marketing automation. We love HubSpot ourselves. We thought it was a good solution for the size of company that we are. Love their automations. They have a lot of sequences that you can put in place, like reminders if you're trying to follow up from a marketing or a sales standpoint with people. So hopefully everybody here at least has that covered. There's also a really nifty tool that we've used called Meet Alfred. Has anybody heard of it or used it before? Okay, so this will be one thing that hopefully you can learn today. So Meet Alfred will automate your outreach on social media. So we sell to other businesses, and depending on who you sell to, you might sell to other businesses, you might sell to consumer, but you can use this on both. You can automate sequences to reach out to people on social media channels. And for us, LinkedIn is very important because that's where we sell to business, and that's where the business community primarily hangs out. And we did this really cool thing where you can integrate LinkedIn with Meet Alfred and create like outreach campaigns to people that go out automatically. First to connect, and then to stay in touch with updates. And that turned out to be a really awesome way to build our LinkedIn presence, to build our community. And within a very short period of time, we were able to have tens of thousands of followers within our community for Botco AI. Of course, we use our own product to also engage with people who visit our website so we can instantly respond to their questions. Of course, it's also a great way for them to test our own product and see if they like it. I'm sure everybody here has used ChatGPT, or hopefully you've attempted it, right? It's so easy to have it write your blog post. Just tell it, I need blog post, optimize it for SEO with these keyword phrases. I want it to be 1,500 words. Give me 6 topics around these different things. Just write a really awesome prompt, experiment a little bit, and you'll get your SEO keyword blogs written. And you don't have to pay anyone. That was awesome. So sorry if there's blog writers here. You're probably going to send me home. Somebody said tomatoes might come my way. And then the other thing that works really well is we always have tried to create templates for everything. So templatizing graphics so that you can just quickly turn them around. We just found that those things were super important from a marketing standpoint to scale our marketing programming. Okay, so that's where we did well. Let's see, what happened to my bullets? Let's see. There we go. Product delivery. So we're a software company, and so we use a very tried and true methodology in software called Agile. But we don't use like the heavy-duty version of Agile. If you've worked at a big company, like maybe a big Fortune 500 company that uses Agile, sometimes they kind of over-index on process. And for all of us, I think most of us are small business owners. So I would say take the best parts of Agile and use the key aspects of it, and that's what we're doing. So we're using kind of like an Agile light software development process, which constitutes, and you can do this in any business, it doesn't have to be just software, daily stand-ups, 15 minutes, super quick, get everybody on the same page. What are you working on today? Do you have anything that's blocking you? If yes, let's resolve it right away so that you can get your stuff done today that needs to get done. I mean, that's basically the agenda of the daily stand-up. Everybody knows exactly what they're working on for that day. And then we organize the work in weekly sprints so that everybody knows this week we start here and we're supposed to end here. And everybody knows exactly what the end goal is by the end of the week. We have a demo. Everybody showcases this is the work that we produced. Is it ready to move into quality QA process, right? And then we deploy it the following week. But that's essentially, it's like just having a cadence like that. And what that does is it gives, by breaking up the work into these smaller chunks, it makes something big that could seem kind of overwhelming all of a sudden very manageable because you're breaking it down by week and then by day. And everybody on the team knows what needs to get done, and everybody knows also if something's not getting done. So on any given day, I can look up, we use a tool called Notion, which I put in here, document everything, where I can see the status of anything that's being worked on in the company. We're a remote team. I have people in 10 different countries. There's no way, we're in different time zones even. But I can see what the status is. If I know that we're working on a feature and I want to know exactly where we are with that feature, I can look it up in Notion. I can see, they've hit a snag. They have a blocker. There's something they're waiting on from somebody else. There's a dependency. Oh, this is ready for testing. Right? I can see the entire process of that entire flow every single week on any given day. And it's on my phone. I can access it. If a customer is asking, hey, when is that feature coming? I can literally look at it and tell them exactly what the status of that product feature is and when it's going to go into testing and when it'll be released into production. So whatever it is that you're creating or that you're producing within your company, take aspects of that work for you and consider using them because it's a really useful way to always know the status of everything. Try to automate as much as you can. In software, we've done a lot of work automating the quality assurance process. It may not be applicable to you. Of course, we host everything in the cloud and containerize it. And then we have a saying in our company that's just, has anybody watched Portlandia before? Do we have any Portlandia fans? Has anybody seen the You Can Pickle It episode? That's one of my favorite. I happen to garden, so I love that episode. We have something similar at Botco. We call it You Can Automate It. Like, you can automate it, you can automate it. Like, everything we look at, we think about how can we automate it? How can we turn this manual task into an automated task? And the minute that you start thinking that way, all of a sudden you can scale because you can do so much more. And you can take any manual process that you're working on and say, how can we automate this? How can we make this easier, faster? And so all of a sudden, think tasks that could take months can now just take days or even hours. So those are the places that I feel like we've done well when it came to scaling. But there's some stuff that we're still working on. We're not perfect. We're an early stage company. We still have some work in progress here. And I had mentioned customer onboarding was a challenge for us. And we just found that some customers want to read things. Some customers want to just consume it like a video. Some people want to have you explain it to them in person, right? They all have a different desired way to learn how to use the product. And so what we found is that we just had to provide variety. And so we're saying, okay, here are all the release notes. For the people who like to read, we have the full documented workflow for you. For the people who don't want to read, here we have a video to show you. And for the people who don't want to read or watch the video, we'll set up a call and we'll walk you through it. We'll record it. You can watch it again on your free time. Right? So we just discovered that we had to have many different ways because every customer wanted it a different way. We also keep all of our documentation in Notion so the customer can reference back. And then we've also done things like automate reminders, like, hey, by the way, we noticed that you started this loading your data, but you didn't quite finish. Little nudges like that, again, also automated so that people complete their tasks and get to really start experiencing the product at its fullest. So those are some things we're still working on. And then when it comes to scaling, let's go one more. Oh, integration. So this is where, this part continues to be a challenge is how do we integrate our software with another software product that they already have, right? They need data from our system to go into their system and vice versa. This can sometimes be challenging because their configuration is odd or different than what is typical. They might be on an older subscription of XYZ product. And so we run into a lot of issues. And so one of the things we did is we found a really great partner. It's actually a company based here as well called Syncery. And they provide out-of-the-box integrations, like a toolkit of integrations. And so they have these connectors, and they can basically just like plug our system into another system and already create like a two-way sync that's always ongoing. So that has been super helpful and has really, really shortened the cycle for integration. So if you're having an issue kind of along those lines, consider products like that. There's also tools like Zapier that you can use that kind of do the same thing, but on a smaller scale. We also discovered that our sales team had a hard time always knowing like what questions to ask the customer. Like, how do I know if their configuration is X or Y or Z? Like, how am I supposed to know that? And of course, they can't possibly know all the variations that a customer might have. And so what we did is we created templates for them to use depending on what product they're integrating into, that they could just essentially ask the same questions. And we used ChatGPT to help us create the list of questions. If you're trying to integrate your software with Salesforce, what are some things you should consider? And that has really helped. And then we've also created a testing sandbox, so like an area where our customers can try different things where we can kind of play around with the product that's not in production, and that has really helped a lot as well. So again, this is stuff we're still perfecting, and we're still looking for ideas of how we can get better there. But the idea is that we're constantly experimenting, and that's part of the scaling process. Try different things, see what works, see what's helpful. If it's saving you time and actually getting you somewhere faster and more effectively, then keep it. If not, just scrap it and try something else. The beauty about being creators like you all are, you're creating businesses, is that you get to define the destiny of what your company is. And so having a culture of experimentation and trying new things is often what will get you to the right place. And maybe what worked for me won't work for you, but talk to each other, because I'm sure you have some great ideas you can share. So with that, I think I wanted to share one thing with each of you. So feel free to grab that QR code. We created a guidebook on how to use generative AI for marketing. So I had talked a little bit before about some of the things that you can do to scale. If you don't want to answer the phone 24/7 or be texting constantly with your customers, because that's not possible at some point, consider using some type of chat service. We have provided you with some different ideas here of how you can use these technologies to augment your business and make you accessible to millions of customers at the same time, not just whoever you can happen to respond to in that moment. So with that, I really want to appreciate your time. I think we have a panel coming up now, and I'm happy to stay and answer some further questions from you as well. And then feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, all the places. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. You stay here because we're going to have our other speakers join us here on stage. I have so many questions, particularly on AI. I'm sure a lot of people in the audience do as well. But we're about to bring up our next speakers, Shannon Breen and JJ Levensky, who will be joining us for our panel discussion. Shannon Breen, CEO and founder, co-CEO and founder of Freightvana, a differentiating logistics startup founded on the guiding principles of trust and transparency, headquartered here in Phoenix, Arizona. He's an ASU graduate, go Devils, with a degree in I always get the crowd riled up with that one. With a degree in finance and has lived here in the Valley for over 30 years. He's an avid golfer, a competitor, and a father of 5, so he busy. A born entrepreneur, Shannon experienced setbacks and failed ventures in his 20s before joining the transportation industry in 2012. We also have JJ here. I guess I can sit down for this. Get comfy. He is a seasoned construction executive for over 30 years of experience in the commercial and industrial sectors. JJ's dedication to construction has allowed him to become an industry expert, which he aims to share with customers and investors alike. He also wants me to add that his lovely wife is here in the audience and his children as well. So, no children tonight. Okay, it's date night. How old are your children, by the way? Wow, busy, busy. All right, you guys, we're going to have such a great discussion here because it's really going to put a bow into all of the sessions that we've had here during Speaker Series. But before we get started, she had the main stage for a few minutes. Can you guys just share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
All right, JJ. Shannon Breen, nice to have everybody here. Really humbled by that. I want to say thanks to the State 48 Foundation. This is my first year. I'm actually on the board. Really powerful group, growing expansively, and to see like the impact that we're going to make and have made in the community is really special. So I want to say thanks to the board members. Got a bunch of teammates and my wife in the audience too, so I appreciate that support as well, everybody. Wouldn't be here without Josh on my team, who actually saw the post last year about the board opportunity and put it on my roadmap. So I appreciate you, Josh. So a little bit about Freightvana, third-party logistics company. I realize that doesn't mean anything to most people in the room. So basically what we do is we coordinate truckload transportation for some of the largest shipping companies in the country. What most people don't know about trucking is that it's made up very fragmented, right? Made up of a lot of small trucking institutions. So you'll know the big companies. Some of us used to work at one here locally. But the big companies, let's say 1,000 trucks and up, only make up about 15% of the overall marketplace. So trucking and transportation, so anytime you go to the store, anytime you go to Costco, anytime you go to the grocery store to eat, all of those products are shipped by small to medium-sized truckers. So what does that mean and what do? Our group basically coordinates all of those shipments. So the shippers basically give all those opportunities to our team. We hire the truckers, we track the truckers, we have to take on the liability for the product that's hauled on those trucks, and basically it's a massive operation. It's heavily built on the backs of technology, but we've got a lot of people in our operation. So background story on us, we're 27 months old. We started with 24 of the most talented logisticians in the state. Very biased in saying that. They were hand selected to be a part of our startup team. Since we've started. I think you mentioned it in your intro there. We've grown to over 110 people, one of the fastest growing logistics companies in the country, and just really excited. Really excited to share some of the stories, some of the learnings with you all. It's been a wild ride. It continues to be a wild ride every day, and I'm just really excited to share some of that knowledge with you all, answer questions, like Rebecca said. Hopefully be a resource for any of you in the future that look for assistance or any help, and just really blessed and humbled to be here. So thanks, everybody.
Your turn.
Hello. Is it working? Okay. JJ Levinsky, CEO and co-founder of Blue Wave. We are a construction services company, started as a commercial general contractor, and then we were very fortunate, I think like what Shannon said is, I have co-founders too, people that we started with, that I'm sure we'll get into details as we panel discussion. And then about 2 years ago, we were fortunate enough to expand into HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and handyman divisions, which I think is kind of why we're here. And I shout out as well to State 48 Foundation, State 48 proper, Mike Spangenberg. I was fortunate enough, there's some people that I started with the Vistage group here, Tom and Mike, and the friendship started, and then the State 48 Foundation just spawned off much like Shannon, so I feel very blessed to be part of the group.
Do you want to share a little bit more about you? Did you feel like you got it all out?
I feel like they know a little bit about
Okay,
me.
perfect.
Let's get into the question.
Yes, JJ, let's go with you first. In session 1, we talked a lot about the importance of just knowing your why and having that really the foundation and the starting point for operating and starting your business. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the failures first. So as a recovering entrepreneur, you should get used to that phrase. So I will be 52 in less than a month. So I look at all you young entrepreneurs out there, and I will tell you, I'm proud of you because you guys saw it earlier. So let me tell you what I didn't do with my why. I probably hid from my why for 20 plus years. And if you do nothing else, read the Simon Sinek book at least 10 times, which is Find Your Why. So I will go back to about 2.5 years ago, I was struggling with my why. I was successful, but I never got to why we're talking here tonight about scaling sustainably and getting over that threshold of what was my personal glass ceiling. I was fortunate enough to go to a executive retreat 2 winters ago, and I was in a lockdown session for about 5 days with 3 other CEOs. And I will tell you that paramount in me breaking through, and it's all about the why. So if I can take a moment, I actually brought my journal with, that imagine being locked down and people forcing you to go through your traumas, and think of traumas as not like getting hit by a car or anything like that. It's more about the stigmatisms that are in your subconscious. And I can't stress it enough that the sooner you can find that, the greater you can break through. So with that, I'll read these because I think hopefully my vulnerability will allow you to maybe think about how these impact yourself. And then I'll go to the company part. So let me read it verbatim. These are the things that after 5 days, my group ended up helping me write for myself. So this is like my new ethos, if you will. It is through my strengths that I know myself and experience God in more of an agnostic state, if you can imagine that. In bringing my gifts into my world through compassion, I create connection and illustrate my love. Then third, by accepting the love that comes from bringing compassion and connection into my world, I fully realize my potential. Therefore, I will always live my purpose. That's a pretty meaningful why.
Oh.
So now, if I go back to when we started Blue Wave 7 years ago, it wasn't Blue Wave. It was School Builder. What do you think we did? We built schools. Pretty profound, huh? We sat down in a room, imagine glass walls, and we did the typical Post-it notes all over. We were like, listen, this isn't our why. School Builder is not our why. Our thing was much like what I did. You heard that the connection came out of there. For me, my why was all about connection. And for those of you that were here last week, Lindsay was awesome. And Lindsay was all about connection too. So that word just keeps resonating, excuse me. And so as our company, we sat there and did all these things. And we came up with the name Blue Wave. And everyone goes, what the hell is Blue Wave for? Well, There was a bunch of us in there that had read the book Blue Ocean Strategy, so I encourage you all to write that down. And Blue Ocean Strategy in its core was how do you swim outside of the sharks that are in your lane? Much like what Shannon's done, their group found out how to get away from the monotony and the commoditized approach in any business that you're in. We felt the same way. And if I can give you kind of the elevator pitch, it was like, wow, Blue Wave, you know what we are? We're solution providers. It just so happens that we monetize the solutions through construction services. So that became our why, but it all was about connection. So if you take nothing away from this, understand that if you can bridge your personal why to the company why, when those two collide, it's like nirvana on steroids. So with that, that's my summary of why.
Wow, we are getting real personal here tonight. Did you guys bring your journals too?
No
open journal. Thank you for vulnerably sharing that with us. Rebecca, what has been the most challenging thing that you've experienced, talk about vulnerabilities, as a business owner?
Wow. So this is really hard for me to talk about, so I don't even know if I can get through it, but we shall try. So I told the story at the beginning about my own daughter and her experience, and that's actually the good story, right? The story that ended happily. Even though she ended up in the hospital, we got through it, everything's good. But there's another story, and it's my brother's story. He did not make it. And when I think about all of us here, we all have family, we all have people we love. Sometimes we realize that the solution could have been so simple, and that we have created obstacles in the process in which we need to engage support systems that fail us. And when I went through that experience, I realized it became like a mission for me to honor his memory in a way that would make sure it didn't happen to anybody else. So for me, it's been coming out of that experience and realizing this is not just a business, right? This isn't just something that I'm doing to get rich one day or something like that. It is truly something that I have to harness every single day and say, I have to get through this. Sometimes it's really hard, but then channeling that energy into productivity and into doing something meaningful that will essentially change the direction of the world, even if it's just in a small way. And so I would say understanding how to connect those dots and draw meaning from it and not just let it happen and feel defeated by it.
I think as a true business owner, one, a strong why, and then two, knowing that you're in service of others. It's not just a self-serving act or I want to get rich quick or anything like that. Like, you truly have to know that you have value to serve others, and that's what makes an operating business and great leaders like yourself, so I applaud you for that. Next question, this one is for Shannon. How does your business look different now versus when you first started? And that was just 24 months ago? 27 months ago.
Well,
Whirlwind.
Zero revenue, zero systems, zero customer contracts. Does that sound familiar? Anybody? But a great team, right? And I think I'll be in a unique scenario. Most of you will start out probably on your own and try to grow from a bootstrap. A lot of people are like, oh, you bootstrapped your company. I did not bootstrap our company. You know, we'll talk about funding a little later. Was able to raise some capital, high net worth individuals, family and friends, publicly traded company, and had that seed round of money to then go hire that team that I talked about earlier. So how does it look different? Just the veracity and the scale and the pace that we're at, right? If you think about starting with all those zeros and then 27 months later, you're pushing a couple $1 million a week, thousands of transactions, all of that happens really fast. So I'll be in a different, unique boat than you, probably on that scale, because most businesses don't start that way. But the thing that I would share is just all about that grit, right? Who in the room has read, you know, JJ mentioned a book. I've not read that. I think that's a great call. But who's read the book Grit by Angela Duckworth? Hands raised if you've read it. I'll be honest with you, the science of grit just an amazing book. If you're in this room, if you want to start a business, no matter what your aspirations are, you better have grit, because it's like waves, right? And I don't care what team you have around you. I don't care what passion that you have. Anybody that's owned a business, failed at a business, which I have, or wants to do a business, if you don't have grit, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle anyway, but grit will be the thing that carries you through. I promise you that. There are days, it's like an ocean. You mentioned waves. These are not the waves, the blue waves maybe. These are the tough waves.
Those are the red waves.
Yeah. Those
Not
are the waves,
calm waves,
where you're,
not the
where
waves
you're,
of the ocean.
Yeah, you're gasping for breath and you're not sure when they're going to stop. So I challenge you to go read that book. It's an absolute must read. And if you don't have grit and you're sitting there like, I'm not that gritty, you've got to figure out how to synthesize that. And whatever that thing is that motivates you, your why, your personal story, your journaling, whatever that thing is that gets you out of bed, that picks you up. For me, I'll just last and share this because I know we want to get on to more questions, right? For me, it's really, yes, my family, but you gotta imagine 24 people that also quit their careers to come join you on this wild ride. They gave away their titles. They took pay cuts. They said, I believe in you. So when I get up in the morning, it's all of those now 110 people that rely on our company for their mortgages, for their car payments, to take their kids on vacations. That means something to me. So my why is getting up for all those people that have believed in me. And at some point, I hope for all you, as you start your business, as you grow your business, people are working for you, it has to translate in something bigger than just monetarily. Like the people I've seen struggle the most, it's a monetary journey. But honestly, Gary Vee talks about it. If you follow him, if you're just doing it for the money, I promise you it will be an empty endeavor. I used to make a lot of money in my last job, and you can ask my wife, I was unfulfilled. I was not happy. I make a fraction of the money today that I ever did. Sure, the upside's bigger. That's what my team will tell you. But I would also share with you that the fulfillment loop is just a driving force that is just so pure and really fuels my fire and allows us to do what I do and hopefully what our team will do in the future. So,
I have a quick follow-up for that, just quickly, because I think it's so fascinating when you talk about the journey of entrepreneurship, the waves, the roller coaster, whatever. You're puking, you're having fun, and then the next time you're, what's going on? But you're speaking on grit. Can grit be learned throughout the process? Can you gain grit, exercise that muscle, or do just some people have it, or you don't? Anyone can answer, truly. Yeah.
It's obvious the people that were born with it and just have it inherently. But I've recently seen it on my team, a person that didn't have it, but in a different culture, in a different context, they acquired grit and then really doubled down on it. And it, as a leader and as an owner, it was like an aha moment for me going, oh my God, this is beautiful to watch. So yes, I believe it can be learned through environment.
Yeah, I would say you can learn it by just doing a lot of hard things. Like, really, it's all about challenging and always putting yourself in a place where you're learning something new and you're uncomfortable. And like the fact that all of you are here shows that you're already in that state. But create even artificial environments for that to happen. So we all have friends that have tried to do marathons and triathlons, right? What they're trying to do is develop that grit muscle. So whatever version of that for you that might be, learning a new language, learning a new sport, learning a new something, right? Putting yourself in a little bit of a more risky, difficult situation where you're going to have to figure it out. That's kind of the essence of what entrepreneurship is. You're always doing something you've never done before. And just knowing hey, we can do hard things. That to me is the ultimate kind of driver of how we create grit. It's learning that we can get through hard things, learning that we can do hard things, learning that we can get through a lot of no's to get to a yes. And just repeating that cycle over and over and over. And entrepreneurship just gives us so many opportunities to do that. I think I've probably faced more rejection in the last year than I did in my entire life. But, so it doesn't scare me anymore. Rejection is totally fine with me. And that just is a muscle that gets developed over time.
I love that. My commentary would be, so most of my business analogies always revert back to sports. My teams love it. You guys probably won't have teams like we talked about probably to start, but when you do, right, you become a team leader. And I think the really special part about running a business and whether it's grit or anything else, is everything motivates different personalities a different way. So when I talk to business leaders, and most in the room that are successful business leaders will tell you, half the time you're a psychologist. Half the time you're a psychologist. And if you don't believe me, surround yourself with X number of people and then tell me that half the time you're not a psychologist, right? What makes Matt tick is different. What makes Andrew tick is what different makes Josh tick. But guess what? They all have to tick, right? So what makes me tick is much different. But my job as a team leader, as a captain, as a point guard, is to figure out how to get that out of those people. And so I've really got to dive into their whys, right? Their personal, what makes them go. I got to know about them personally, and then I got to put them in positions to be successful. And that may be totally unique for each one of them, right? And so that is why I say psychologist. But it's very important, as you're talking about whether it's grit or anything else, to find those individual attributes that you can pull out of people, because they're not going to be like yours probably.
That's good. Shannon, you grew pretty quickly. You described having now 110 employees within this 27 months, and this is really an answer or a question that any of you guys can answer. How important, did you have, back to scaling, processes implemented already in place for kind of that expansion that can happen overnight? Or what are some of the challenges or regrets maybe that you had of not having certain processes in the mix?
Tons of regrets. I'd say we're in a unique spot, most of the team that came over, right? So you think about starting from zero, but before that, we were working within a $7 billion ecosystem. So you go from 7 billion to zero, then to 100 million. So it does seem like audacious, but at the same time, it's all about perspective, right? Business, life, it's all perspective. So I'd say from a regret standpoint, you always look back, you fail way more than you win. There's conversations and people that situations probably didn't go the way you wanted to. You let emotions get to you, like all the things that are just being human in the journey. So from a scale perspective, I mean, where and how, and we'll talk a little about by prioritizing systems and where you invest and how to know a little bit later, I think. But yeah, it's just kind of leaving it all out there. No regrets, though. I mean, honestly, my ethos, you mentioned ethos. I had this one video before I quit my corporate job that, I got parents that are school teachers. My wife will tell you I got a 3- and 5-year-old at home. I had one little video, this Goalcast video, and it was all about no regrets, no ghosts, right? And I'll just share this story. So the whole thing, it's very quick. I'll send it to anybody who wants it. DM me. But it was powerful, right? Because everybody says life's short, right? Life's too short, life's too short. But this thing goes into it, and it molds it differently. And basically, and it's Denzel Washington talking, right? And it's got music playing, and it just, like, the arm, see?
Got the chills.
See? The chills, right? So, but this one video, as I'm like, are you really going to quit this job, right? Are you really going to take this journey? You're going to take this leap? But the whole ethos of the video is like, he paints this picture. Lying in your bed, decades from now, on your deathbed, will be the ghosts of your unfulfilled potential. The opportunities you never took, the challenges you never took on, that'll be what you look around your bed. So as I thought about, hey, you're going to quit this job, I didn't picture the job. I didn't picture my 3-year-old daughter. I didn't picture the nice house I worked my butt off for 25 years to have. I pictured that regret. I pictured those ghosts, all those opportunities I didn't take. That video in 45 seconds became my ethos, and honestly, between that and a couple other things is the reason I'm here today. So
Wow.
Shannon does have the no regrets tattoo on his back. He's just not willing to show it.
I low-key wanted to quote this entire time. Not one regret, not one tattoo, nothing, no regrets. Oh my gosh, let's get back into incorporating some systems here. And for you, Rebecca, obviously you're like the queen of systems and have everything kind of in place, organized. Has it always been that way, or what was your decision to implement that into your business?
Oh, definitely not. I'm actually the disorganized person.
Wow.
Usually, when we hired our first our VP of engineering, he's still the VP of engineering. It's not like he's gone. But he came in and he's like, oh, we got to organize this stuff. And so he was so great about like implementing process, systems, documentation, and cleaning up things. And basically, he was like the Container Store version of what we needed, right?
A dream.
And we have a rule now at our company that if it's not in Notion, which is the tool that we use, it doesn't exist. So if you have a request, if you have something you created, if you need anything, like if you're not in Notion, if it's not there, it doesn't exist. Because he needed to create a very strong discipline around documentation. And now everybody says that in the company. Like, is it in Notion? Well, if it's not there, why are we talking about this? Like, it's not even an actual thing yet. And so it has created a lot of organization, and it just creates the ability for us to always know status with each other. And being a virtual company, that's super, super important. And so I would say I haven't always been the great organizer, but what I know about myself is that I'm not, and therefore I must surround myself with people who are. And then we can work really well together. I can be the big thinker, the big idea person, the kind of what is possible, and then I have somebody who's like, okay, but now let's organize it. And then stuff can get done.
If I may, I might take a little bit of tangent, but pick up off what Rebecca's talking about. I think everyone goes in with all these grandiose ideas of process, procedure, and standardizing everything, and then it falls short, right? I think the biggest takeaway that I can look at our scalability, and I think these two will opine and back me on this, is that as visionaries, if you don't surround yourself with the integrators, and I'll do another shout out that if you don't know anything about EOS models or business system models, please research it, because even if you never do it, steal or plagiarize or do some of it, okay? And then if you never read another book, read Rocket Fuel, okay? You guys know that one? Okay. Rocket Fuel will describe it'll help you go through an assessment of, are you the visionary or do you need an integrator? And once you can bridge those two things, you will watch your company grow. Then those processes and standardization things will then be implemented by the right people, as Rebecca said. If you fake it, you will fail.
I like that. In session 2, we obviously hit a lot on brand identity and leadership and what that entails. When you were presenting, all I could think about was obviously like the human element of running a business still, right? And how AI can or automation can kind of blur the lines there. How do you still stay true to that brand identity, but also having that human element as a leader with your organization?
Yeah, in fact, one of the reasons I love AI is because you can bring that brand identity to life, and I get to see this happen every time within my platform. So we always tell, just to give you a sense of all the data that we use to train the models is the company's own data, the customer's data. And so we always say, like, imagine your best, most knowledgeable employee, your person that knows everything. What would that person be like? How would they speak? What would they talk about? And they even give these AI personas sometimes even names. And they create a whole identity for this person. And then when we ingest all the data to train the models that it will now be able to reference when it chats, it is done in a way that conveys that brand persona and that brand personality. And what I love is that every single customer that uses my product uses it in a unique way and ends up expressing their brand identity and what they're trying to come across as to their customers. And so it's not Botco AI's identity that's coming through at all. It's their own, and that's how it should be. And so we do that with our own. We named our AI Botquina is her name. And because we love, we are like all about female empowerment at Botco AI.
Does she wear sparkly shoes though?
She has a crown.
Okay.
She doesn't have shoes yet. She's just got a face. But that's such it's a really fun exercise to go through. And so I actually feel like we have been able to use technology to bridge that and actually bring that whole aspect of brand identity and personas to life through those AI virtual agents.
Do you have anything to touch on?
I have nothing on virtual agents. But I would say for us, when I think about brand identity, I think it really leans heavily on our social and marketing presence, right? And then empowering our people. So we come from trucking. So trucking is this old school, Americana, nostalgic, very structured. Most of us grew up in who's worked in a publicly traded company? How was your social media, personally? Boring? Yeah, I used to tell people, hey, we wanted to do social media, but then you got to get 10 sign-offs to do one LinkedIn post. So when we started, right, Josh really led this charge, our director of marketing recruiting. We were like, we're going to flip the whole script, to JJ's point. Like, we're going to just go full bore. We're going to trust everybody that's on our team. You can have your, it'll all come back to Freight Vaughn at the end of the day, or do your own thing, have your own voice. And what that really, you talk about empowering your people and trust. So you're all going to build a company. And the thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hold it real dang tight. You're going to want to do it every publicly, someone else is going to screw it up. But then you got to ask yourself, why am I hiring people if I think they're going to screw up my business? Because they're interacting with my customers. They're meeting people, they're calling people, but then, oh my God, don't do social media, right? Like, it's kind of a weird line. And you find so many companies struggle, and entrepreneurs, especially owners, have this personal experience with their brand. So what we did is we flipped the whole thing. Josh will tell you this if you follow us. We're zany, we're fun, we mix it up, we put out TikToks, and next thing you know, the whole industry is like, what on earth are you guys doing, right? And then they come to the office, but that energy, that identity, it bleeds through, right? And our people are smiling, and it just kind of carries over. We don't take our so serious in customer meetings, and they're like, dang, we just are different in the way that we showed up, but we did it one way for a long time, and we're like, we just want to be totally different. So when I don't have the bots, but I do have a lot of really good people, and if you follow us, like, everybody's got their own identity. I would encourage you, as you create your brand identity and you're hiring people, hire great people, number one. That's a throwaway statement that everybody's gonna be like, yeah, of course. But then you got to empower them, right, to represent you and their brand, and trust. And that is a big thing to do. But if you're going into entrepreneurship, and here, what the value of that is then you get expansive reach, because you're only going to be able to do so much. I don't post every day. I really don't. But now we walk in like, you guys are everywhere. That's not me. I've got 20 different people with their own brands and their own voice. And so you see our logo, you see our marketing, everybody's got their own spin. So we've covered a ton of ground in a short amount of time, and it's not me doing the lift. And if you want to be successful, figure out how to get that, right, that multiplicity factor going with your team. You can cover a lot of ground. And if you have really good people, it's a special thing. So I know you're going to want to hold it tight because it's really personal, but you got to let it go and you got to trust. That's what I would share with all you guys.
So you're saying you know some TikTok dances,
Josh is the dancer,
Josh?
For what it's worth.
Where's Josh at? He's hiding under his hat. Okay, TikTok dances, reels coming up soon. For you, how do you implement technology and processes in the mix of your business?
Everywhere. But I like what Rebecca's done. Like I said, as the old guy in the group, AI changed us. In other words, we were in the construction space. We have so many different softwares and all that kind of stuff. And I was always the naysayer going, hold it. Because I'd made tons of mistakes younger with technology, that the implementation looked grandiose and was going to solve all the problems. And then when I started seeing utilization rates at 10% or below, I'm like, what in the hell am I paying for, right? And people they weren't connected to it either. You know, your employees, your people, even your clients, it was like, well, why am I using this platform? Why don't we just pick up the phone or send an email or a text? So keep it simple, stupid actually seemed like a better thing for me. But I am gonna compliment Rebecca that when we switched off of that and truly integrated AI changed our world overnight. And so for the last year, we've been using it, and I love it because I don't know what's different about it. I can't put my finger on it, but there you go. But it just feels more connected. And so we've just cut down on a lot of the noise, but the AI has been very, very profound, and I think it has provided a tremendous return.
I feel like that's just like opening the cap of so much conversation around AI, but how you can truly efficiently use it to your benefit, to automate, to kind of, like you said, get the task done shorter and quicker instead of spending X amount of time trying to do all the things.
I'll go one step further of thinking about what he said and combining it with what both of you do. So for us, I am the social media for my company, but I don't do it. I use Elisa in my podcast, and then I use a Rebecca to take AI and broadcast it everywhere. So I don't do that shit. It's like I'm not smart enough.
You're not big on TikTok and the dancing reels and all of that? Now you're... I need to see one. We got to do one in your blue
I'm,
jacket.
I'm an OG LinkedIn guy.
OG LinkedIn Facebook guy.
Yes.
Okay,
Can
I
I
knew
say
it.
something?
I knew it.
No?
Can I say something about LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely.
So with the social media presence, something I just want to leave this whole group with, right? Say, hey, Shannon, you did that growth. Josh will tell you this answer. How many dollars did I spend on, sorry for all the recruiters in the room, professional recruit, or if you're starting a recruiting company, I'm not a good candidate for you. However, how many dollars did we spend to quadruple our team in that time? 0. People ask us all the time, well, what's your marketing budget? This is ridiculous. How many dollars? 0. When we put an application out, because we have all those inputs, you're going to have a small business. What's your budget going to be for marketing? $100,000, $200,000? What are you going to do to grow your team? Are you just going to put it out on Indeed? No offense to Indeed. Everybody puts their job on Indeed, so then how do you stick out? Guess what? A really strong social media presence with a little bit of creativity. Guess who people want to work for? And here's the cool part. They already know kind of what you're about before they ever walk through the doors. So if you're not on LinkedIn and you're just doing Indeed, I would really, really challenge you to find a different loop. I meet with business owners, and I'll be like, oh, what's your LinkedIn social media strategy? Well, we've been wanting to do it. Man, we're really had a hard time hiring people. You're not on Facebook. You're not on LinkedIn. You have no social presence. There's tell people your story. Show them what you're about, and then your friends will jump in, even if they're not your coworkers, and it'll expand, and you can make an impact and get there really quickly or quicker than if you don't do it at all. So that's just to share with the LinkedIn call out.
Very true. Yeah, it kind of just unveils things as well and builds trust, whether they're the consumer or someone looking into linking arms with you. Rebecca, what advice would you give someone who's looking into implementing system and processes into their business where they're at right now?
Well, I would usually say do the least amount of process that you need. I always say follow the Goldilocks rule, right? There's maybe too little, too much, but just do the right amount. Because I have seen people overkill on process, and that's really, really unnecessary, especially for early stage kind of nascent companies. Don't overdo the process, but also don't underdo it, right, too much. So it's kind of I always tell people, just do little by little, right? Don't try to do everything at once. Pick a few things at a time that could really work, and then get those things going, and then slowly build and add from there. But what's going to work for a 20 or 30-person, a 5-person business won't work for a 30-person business, would be different for a 100 or 1,000-person business. So just make sure it's commensurate with what you have going on within your organization, and you're not overburdening yourself with process when it's not necessary.
Did you experience any of that, or what does it look like to overdo it in processing? Yeah,
I actually made this mistake with Ideas Collide when I was trying to scale our HR system, and so I basically bought a piece of software that was overkill for the amount of employees that we had. I really should have bought something simpler and more basic, and I ended up with this giant software tool that was a nightmare to try to configure. And I just realized, why did I, because I was imagining that, we're going to need to grow into it, so let's buy something that fits us bigger because we'll grow into it, versus we should have just bought what fit us at the time, right? And then we could have scrapped it later. And I think now having that more real-time mentality, I'm much more no. I just say no to a lot more things and just say, let's just focus on what we need right now in the moment. Let's not over-process.
Sometimes less is more. Did you have something?
Just a thought on nightmare technology purchases. There's a lot of power in this room that a lot of you will probably miss, right? You're like, I got to do it all myself. I'm going to make a ton of mistakes. I got to make bets. Who do you ask? Who's currently using the software, right? I see so many people all the time like, I'm going to implement this software. Why? Because the sales guy. Oh, you just lost, right? The sales guy is there to sell you all the best things. But wouldn't it be amazing if you had a network, or you created a network, then you can reach out and say, well, how did this work for you, business owner? You're all starting out in business. This community has so much power. Who are other people that do it in other states? Once again, LinkedIn can help you with that. Hey, I'm thinking about adapting this. You'd be really surprised how many people want to help other people in the goodness of it, like JJ. But you got to reach out and you got to ask the questions. And that's the one thing, like, you're going to have vendors sell you stuff all the time. All the time. How many vendor calls you get a week?
I mean, I don't even answer them.
You can't. It's impossible, right? It's like 80 a week. Yeah. But if I'm ever about to spend serious money on something, I am calling all of my peers, the folks I've known for years, that we compete, but we also partner because we're vetting technologies. How did this work for you? You ever use this? Those are the calls I take. Those are the calls I make. You need to create a community in your space that you can then share, because then you all can better from it, and you're not wasting money, and you're also helping shrink down that island that you undoubtedly will feel like you're on. So
that's great advice. Well, JJ, for you, if you could give advice to anyone that's sitting here in the room, maybe they're on the verge of wanting to scale or feeling like that's what they need to do, what would your advice be for them before they open up that door?
Go back and ask the question, why? I mean, seriously, it's hard because are you scaling, like I think what Shannon said, when you see the people that scale for financial and fiduciary reasons, it's shallow, it'll never reach the finish line. But if you have an intrinsic motivation with you, your team, back to the ethos of your organization, then go after it. And I will take a cue from what Shannon said, is surround yourself with other people in your industry who have scaled before you, and they will tell you. They'll tell you the horror stories, they'll tell you the successes. No one wants to go through it. I mean, we're all sitting here as examples of that exact same reason. We want to share our stories so you can either take our successes and take it to the 10x, or take our failures and never do what we did, because we're here to be susceptible to that. So surround yourself with networks that are willing to share those experiences. That would be my biggest advice.
When did you know you were ready to scale more so, whether it was through the processes or employees, if anyone wants to answer that question?
I mean, for me, it was always like every day, I guess. You know, I've always felt like my job is to work myself out of a job. So whatever job I'm doing, I need to work myself out of that job. So, you know, I used to do a lot of the marketing stuff that for Botco AI. Now I touch literally none of it. It just happens now. I used to be really involved in product decisions. Now I just kind of like oversee it at a really high level, but I'm not in the nitty-gritty of the details of it anymore. And so I always think whatever I'm doing now and what's taking my time, how do I work myself out of this, right? And that's what we constantly have to be thinking about, because we can't grow and we can't expand our team if we're not multiplying ourselves, essentially, which means scaling through the people that we bring around us to support us.
How difficult is that as a leader, or maybe someone here in the room, they have their vision, their baby, and they're, you know, bringing people in. You touched on hire the right people, obviously, but you want to be able to scale in a way that you then empower them, right, as your employees, as a whole brand and business. But how difficult, have you guys ever faced difficulties in letting go of certain things? It's honest hour, yes. What did that look like?
Of course, but it's the first time you go through that glass ceiling, it's liberating, and then it becomes easier. Wouldn't you agree, the two of you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all have our little things like, oh, but I'm going to hang on to this thing, right? And it just doesn't work. Like, at some point, people are like, just stop, right? Like, I literally get kicked out of meetings now, and I actually celebrate it. Like, I got kicked out of the sales meeting, finally.
She didn't hit her numbers.
I love it.
And it was actually great. I was like, my job here is done. Go forth, right? Yeah. And we should be that way about all of the meetings that we attend as owners and as executives of our businesses. Just work your way out of and get fired from every meeting. That should be your goal.
What is that conversation like? Rebecca, leave.
Like, we got this. Yeah. You don't need to be here. Go do something else.
I love that.
Lisa, if I can, the other thing I failed to say is your market and your clients will tell you when to scale too. If they keep demanding and asking for the valuation that you bring to their market, it's obvious. Then go seek it and do everything to attain it.
Shannon, for you, it happened pretty quickly. So what was that whirlwind like in terms of scaling and now having 110 employees under you?
Yeah, really chaotic. I mean, I think you like going back to the psychologist or the point guard theory, right?
I love the sports analogies.
That's all
I'm
I
here
give.
for it. I'm
So
here
yeah,
for
you're here for it? All right, good. I was talking to Guillermo in the front seat, and it's funny, like you'll say these things in meetings in like a point guard, right? So we have a team meeting, we're bringing on all these trailers. We have like over $50 million in trailers, full nation, and getting beat up by processes and lack of this, and one gets damaged. It's just chaos, right? Because you have that many moving parts. It's just, and you could tell the team's like hanging their head. And I could just sense, right, from that point guard, like you ever been in that huddle for anybody that played sports where everyone's kind of hanging their heads a little bit, right? But like you're all charged to be that leader. You're the one that walks into that huddle, and they're waiting for you to set that tone. So in that meeting, I wanted to bring some levity to it. And Guillermo will tell you this. I said, hey, everybody, relax. Today is the worst we're ever going to be. And they all stopped, right? Now, this was a throwaway comment from me. I don't know where I got that. I'm not coining it that it's mine. But I did throw it in this meeting. Let the record state. But what's... Facts. But what I would share about that statement is you don't, like that moment, they needed that, right? They needed to know. And then literally, they'll have these moments where you say things like, today is the worst we're ever going to be. And that was just a statement in a room. I've had 7 different people from this 12-person meeting come up to me and restate, yeah, because today's the worst we're ever going to be, right? Josh, a few days ago, like, we need T-shirts.
Yes, I was just going to say.
Today's the worst we're ever going to be. Guillermo, hey, and see what I'm saying? You have such power, right, when these people put their trust in you in this, and so you've got to embrace that. You got to lead with your heart. It's been a chaotic ride, there's no doubt. But we have these large, lofty ambitions, and not just my ambitions, to JJ's point, collective ambitions for the collective group, all the people that made that bet, and all the people that are rooting for us. And so that's it.
I love that quote. I was going to say, if you need a T-shirt collab, I know some people
Yeah.
we could put on a shirt. It sounds like a great shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's talk a little bit about finances before we get into the Q&A from the audience. So we've been asking all the panelists this year, this is the favorite topic, money. Rebecca, how did you fund your business, or what did you do to fund your success as an entrepreneur when you started?
So our very first, this is actually funny. We sold our software before it existed. So it was a bunch of slides. It was a vision. I shopped it to 100 different businesses, within my network and my co-founders' networks. And finally, you were kind of validating the idea. It was more like feedback sessions, like, oh, if we built this, would you like it? If we built that, would you like it? And we kept like revisioning that idea and that deck over and over again, hundreds of times. And finally, we went through to one of those meetings, and they were like, but wait, how do I buy this? Like, I want the thing that you just presented to me. And I was like, oh, well, it doesn't actually exist. And they're like, well, can we buy it? And I was like, yes. Always say yes. And I said, here's what I'll need. I'll need an upfront payment, and I made up a number, $75,000.
Okay.
Upfront payment. We'll have it for you in 6 months. I didn't even know if that was a good number, a bad number, realistic or not realistic. That was my first check. So then I was like, Chris, I went back to our CTO. I'm like, we got to build this thing. We have a customer now. Like, come on, chop, chop. And he's like, how much are you charging for it? I'm like, I don't know, $75,000. He's like, that's not enough. I'm like, well, we have an order. Let's go. And that was go time, right? And so that was our first, it was like an imaginary product that I sold that didn't even exist. And so then we had to create it so that we could actually deliver on it. And then from there, we finally had a product because we had to create it for them so we could actually legit start selling it. But we funded ourselves. Our first check was this imaginary, non-existent product. And then the second check we got was from the Arizona Commerce Authority, our great friends that are outside. Yes. They have a grant program for founders, and the first time I applied, I got denied. And instead of crying, I said, okay, why did I get denied? I forced myself to go into their office and to meet with every single person that had been on the selection committee to review my application with me. What did I do wrong here? Why did I not get selected? And I basically got the cheat codes from them, reapplied the following year, and of course, got the money.
I love
right? So learned from my failure in that one. That was a $150,000 grant from the state of Arizona. Amazing program, by the way. If you haven't applied, do it. It's the Arizona Innovation Challenge. They put you through this thing called Venture Ready. And then from there, once I had gotten that backing, we were able to raise money from some angel investors. And then from the angel investors came behind them some institutional venture capitalists. But it started with selling something that didn't even exist.
Wow. Talk about a true saleswoman over here. All right, how about for you?
Me? You? You go.
You pick.
You go. I want to hear about your money. You got that construction money.
I graduated. I don't know about you, but I took that course in college called Voodoo Economics, where it doesn't make any sense. No. We bootstrapped it. And you heard that probably if you were at the previous 3 episodes or 3 series. We started Blue Wave, or at that time School Builder, $10,000 in a laptop, and my license was, and we're not at Shannon's numbers, but we're pretty close right now after 6 years. But Rebecca and I were talking about outside earlier that we're now 6-7 years later. We're into the institutional capital raising, things of that nature. So there's a maturation cycle that you go through. There's plenty of resources out there. It's not always easy. We were joking how hard it is right now. But at the same token, if you really stand for something and you're marketable, you're sellable, you're investable, if that's even a word, it will come. You just have to be determined. And back to what Shannon said, you have to have grit, because you're going to hear no 1,000 times before you hear yes. I think everyone knows as an entrepreneur, you're bootstrapping it for a certain period, and then there's some ceilings you can break through. And then once you go there, I wouldn't say it gets easier, it's just different. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. I mean, everybody will have their own journey, but yes, absolutely. You will have to find your own version of that works.
And the time is of the essence. So I got one story, one quick lesson. I was trying to raise money. Also, lots and lots of presentations. Unemployed, on Cobra. If you know what that is, it's not fun. CEO of a $3 billion organization, right? I'm interested. I'll set you up on conversations. Here's the money I need. Here's the valuation. I'm interested. Drags it on. Some of you worked at big companies. Nothing happens fast. But it's only my livelihood. No big deal. Finally, the CFO gets on the call. It's like 3 weeks later. CFO's on the call. CEO's the CEO of a big $3 billion company, and he's like, Shannon, we're going to be in for XXX. I said, hey, that's good, but I don't need XXS. I've already done the work. I still want you guys to participate, but it's going to be for less equity, and I need less money. And that CEO at that time was like, what? Like, excuse me, right? Because most people, right, you feel like you got it on the line, but you've done enough business. It's never closed until it closes. So you got to have that grit and keep working and assume that none of those deals are closed. So that was kind of my breakthrough moment. And that CEO, if we had him here on the stage, would be like, that's when I knew, like, you all were for real, right? The second one I would tell you is I went to raise money. How many of you are going to go raise money for someone that has any clue what you're going to be doing? Probably no one. So what's going to stand out and what they're really investing in is you. Every single person that has raised money does not raise money from people. I'm in third-party logistics, and here's my experience, and here's what I did. So 2 really important keys. Because they don't know what you do, when you have that time to do your pitch, you pour it out on the stage. You tell them why you're going to be successful, why you're going to do different, why you won't let them fail, because that's their money they're giving you, right? That's the responsibility you're asking for. The second thing is, I'll say it again, networks are powerful. I got money from people I've never met, high net worth individuals, friends of friends. Why? Because when I started to go raise money, they're like, hey, if I'm going to put my anywhere and I'm going to bet on you, and I know a guy that can bet on you, and next thing you know, it starts to expand. But what that really means is when you're going about your life, when you're living just your life, how do you treat people? How do you go about your business? Are you honest? Are you someone that trusts? Do you leave it on the table? Because then when it's time for you to make that ask, people will show up for you. Not all the people. You'll still have to present a lot, but they're really betting on you. But it's a testament to how you lived, how you've treated people, the networks that you have, the friends that you keep. And I hope that you're investing in those relationships and being that person, because just to call and say, hey, I need $75,000, that will not be a good call if you haven't done all the work for a long time before that. I promise you that, right? So think about that. They are investing in you. Networks are the most powerful thing there is. I wouldn't be here without them, and hopefully that's valuable to you all.
So good. Thank you guys so much. We heard from your diaries. We learned about TikTok dances, all the things. I hope you guys took some notes and ready for some questions because we're going to start the Q&A. But just a quick reminder, if you do have a question, raise your hand. We're going to come around to you with a mic. Stand up so we can all see you, hear you clearly. And we'll start the Q&A session. Also some virtual questions coming through. So see you in a bit.
Hi, thank you. Great presentation. My question is really directed towards Shannon, but others can pipe in. I like the basketball analogy. So, as Magic
I got so many. We should talk. So many.
So, as Magic Johnson on the Lakers, who do you consider your starting five and the specific roles that allows you to focus on the pieces of the business that you need to focus on?
Starting five for my business?
Yes.
So, I mean, we got a couple of them here. So Josh is here, right? He put us on the map as far as my marketing, right? I knew I couldn't carry that. So Josh would be in my starting five as far as marketing. Naturally, from a business perspective, I feel like unless you have really solid marketing, especially in today's day and age, you're going to struggle. So Josh has been my guy for 8 years. Fun fact about him, he never did marketing in a prior life, right? But he had a passion for it. And we created this deal. He's like, hey, I want to do this. Let's go, right? This is part of the journey. So operations, right? I've got my guys I've worked with for 7, 8, 9 years. My head of operations, Andrew, who had to take off, leads all my account efforts, right? He's like my right-hand guy, does all the gritty work, right? All the stuff. Don Everhart, our CTO, nothing happens without our technology. I met Don when we did a big merger, and I just knew there's no way I can accomplish these big audacious goals without Don on the back end, doing all the tech stuff, doing the innovations, keeping us safe from a security perspective as well. So I don't know if that's full 5. That's good? All right.
Hey everyone, Derek Johnson with 7th Vision Digital Creations. I want to thank all of you for all the input that you contributed as far as making everything scalable and sustainable. One thing I do want to ask is, going back to the employees that you have under you and the responsibilities of keeping their livelihood intact with your innovations and ideals, how do you successfully scale culture? Because that changes as you bring more people on.
I feel like culture actually scales through the team. It doesn't scale through us. I think, well, at least that hasn't been my experience. I feel like I set a tone in, we're always, of course, the hiring those first key people. And then what ends up happening is that they hire people, right? And then that tone gets set through them really more so than anything. And so the culture permeates more, not directly from me, but more from how the team propagates those thoughts and ideas through the organization. We're a virtual team, so we don't have things like ping pong tables and video games because we all work remote. But we do.
My team's laughing because we have ping pong tables. So they didn't know if that was derogatory or just a statement. Like.
But what I would say for us, the defining culture is trust, because the fact that we work remotely and we can we ship product every single week without having to be in the same room is an exercise of incredible amounts of trust and reliance and collaboration. And so I always say that is our culture. Like, don't look for posters on the wall to define what your culture is. It is how people behave when I'm not there amongst each other to get things done. That is culture. And if we can deliver for customers and we can deliver every single week and ship product and renew customers and sign new customers without having to ever be in a physical space together, that to me tells me something is happening that's working.
My only comment on culture would be, and here's a good test. everybody goes and works at a company, you meet the recruiting manager. The recruiting manager tells you all the same things. Every recruiting manager at every company tells you the same thing. This is where you're going to grow. This is where you're going to be happy. This is where you're going to be fulfilled, right? If you can run a company where someone walks through the door and say, I've got a roster, in my case, you know the number, we've talked about it too much, but if you've got a number of people, I've got 110 people, you pick 3 numbers, you can meet those people and you can ask them about our company. Now that's powerful. But have you built a culture, to Rebecca's comment, where you're that confident in what you've built, or are you just saying your hiring manager to tell them the story so that 3 weeks later they're on the floor and then they realize what the culture is really like and they realize what? Like you start your relationship off with a lack of authenticity or meeting the best version of yourself. Try to build a company and think about that, just that analogy. You walk in, you can meet anybody here and ask them about this company. It's a powerful thing as you build and scale. Very, very, very hard to do. Might backfire on you too, so if it does, that's not my fault. But that's the type of confidence you want to have in the culture that you're building. And I think when you have that and that level of confidence as a leader where you can do that, what I just shared, then I think you know you got it.
I can't
Hi.
help that.
Question over here. Hi, my name is Nivi Biani. Hi, Rebecca. Good to see you.
Oh, good to see you.
So I have a dilemma. When do I throw off the cape of my day job and really step into the entrepreneur title? And here's an example of what I'm going to deal with next week. My day job right now is a researcher for a UN plastics treaty. I got funding from a third party to go to a fantastic conference in Bangkok, Thailand, where everyone who cares about waste management and waste is there. My startup is on datafying waste streams, which they all need to make that treaty work. I can choose to go as a researcher and not disclose my entrepreneurship, or I can choose to go as an entrepreneur and showcase my startup, but I don't have everything figured out in my startup that I feel confident to do that. And so I'm in this dilemma of, do I play it safe and go under the title of my day job, or do I take the risk and go as an entrepreneur? I'm scared.
Well, duh, go as the entrepreneur. And, you know, just make sure you have disclosure, right? The team knows, but absolutely, and just make something up. None of us know what we're doing. Nobody knows what we're doing. But I love the question. Thank you, Nimi.
Jump into the deep end. Go for it.
Hey, Noah Ruiz, Soaring Eagle Technologies, board member of State 48 Foundation. I got a question. I want to know what advice you have for all the entrepreneurs here of when to let go of things and let your people run with it, because that's a really hard thing to do. Let go of it and let your people run with it. What advice do you guys have for us?
The minute
Now.
you could,
The time is now.
I used to think that it was when I could afford it, and back to what Rebecca said, do it now.
Do it. They're gonna mess up, okay? So just, it's fine. And they'll get it wrong, and that's okay. That's how everybody learns. So it's okay. I promise.
Hey, how are you? I'm Jamie. I have one comment and one question. My first comment is that I think, because this is the last session, that everybody who's in the house should take advantage of networking and meet each other after this. And then my question is, what was your worst day as an entrepreneur, and what did you do the next day?
There was a month when my accountant, well, the day that my accountant delivered the P&L that showed we had lost $400,000 in 1 month was a really hard drive home, right? My parents are school teachers. we were growing a company, but I remember specifically driving home with this pit in my stomach, like, oh my, like that is, right? Like, that hurts, right? I'm no longer living inside the walls of a $7 billion company with $1 billion in free cash, right? Those dollars hit in a different way. I think go back to grit and go back to everything else. Had that drive home, got up the next day, and then you got to have that why. And that why was, and I would share this story, like, this isn't a sports analogy, but this is a good analogy. So I always tell people, like, boats and ships and captains, right? Captains aren't on the ships for the sunny days and the flat seas. Captains are on the ships. I don't even know if I can curse. Someone said I am or not allowed to curse, but okay, cool. When the shit's awry, right, and the storms and no one knows where the boat's going and we're running out of food and people are sick and people are fighting, that's when the boat really needs the captain, right? And so when you wake up that next day, you realize, hey, if I'm the captain, it's my duty to carry these people through because it's my ship and they're relying on me. I am that point guard. I'm going to set the tone for the day. And so, yeah, was it a tough ride home? Yes. But the next morning when I woke up, I didn't let the team wear that, right? The team saw strength and we went after it, right? And I went after it with a different hunger. So that's that grit. I just share that, the boat captain story because it always resonated with me.
Yeah, I mean, we have so many of those days as entrepreneurs. I tend to try to forget them. But, you know, everybody has that feeling. I don't know if has anybody been left at the altar, like literally with... Ever, okay. So you can relate to this.
I'll tell you about it another time.
I had been working with an investor for months and months and months, and they were just, yeah, we love your company. Yes, this is amazing. Yeah, we're going to do this deal. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be on your board, and this is what the board meetings are going to look like, and this is how it's going to go, and these are the terms, and this is the price, and this is the pro forma, and this is the whole thing. And then they decided not to. Right, something had changed in their environment. Their LPs pulled some funds, and all of a sudden, the deal became a no deal. And that was a pretty rough day. And I would say, you know, for all of us, we know we have to have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D and a plan E and a plan F, right? And that was just knowing like, hey, okay, that just fell through, and that was really, really important. And now I've got to go do plan B and plan C and all the other plans. And I guess the moral of the story is just assume that stuff will fall through and always have many backup plans because it will happen. And especially in this economic environment, you just have to be prepared for that.
Mine is really bad. It's having a death. You're not prepared for that at all. And so I look at what Shannon was talking about, the sports analogy, is I'll never forget that next day. They wanted me to be the point guard, the therapist, the preacher, the rabbi, the whatever. And it was, you can ask my wife, it was horrible. I mean, literally horrible, but through grit, you need to be there. So you have to show both sides of the grit. In that case, it was have vulnerability, compassion, and connection, but then that had be steadfast enough that you're still the rock for your team.
This is going to be our last question, but make sure you stick around afterward and ask the speakers your questions if you have more.
Wow, what a privilege. Thank you guys. This was awesome. Can you talk about, entrepreneurship is always perceived to be the sexy thing to do, and you're all going to make millions of dollars. I really appreciate all your honesty. Can you talk about how important it is I know you touched on relationships, but how important it is to surround yourself with the right people, but also then what are you doing for your professional development? Because we know it gets lonely at the top. What are you doing to continue to make sure you're learning, you're growing, and you're surrounding yourself with the right people that are like-minded?
I love the term lonely. It does feel that way sometimes. It really does. Like, honestly, people won't understand what you're going through, the responsibilities that you carry, the financial aspects of it. So it is a lonely spot. As far as professional development, You know, I get really juiced up doing stuff like this, right? Community, that's a big piece. A professional development. From a skills perspective, I talk about my network of other industry leaders in my space. So there's conferences, right? So when I go to conferences, people are like, oh, selling and shippers and this. That's not really my focus. When I go, I'm learning, asking, what are you going through? We have sidebar conversations. And so, once again, having that network to lean on and going to those conferences, because now all of you are meeting in one place. And so I really like to do that in my realm. Mike, I learn a lot that way. Huge for my professional development and just my learning over the last 13 years in the industry. So.
Yeah, I would say a couple of things have been critical for me. Peer groups. So if you surround yourself with other founders, I'm part of Vistage 2, really awesome organization. Super important to surround yourself with other founders, other executives, other business owners like yourself. Have whether it's formal or informal, but like an advisory group that you can lean on. That's been really helpful for me. For professional development, I'm like the queen of accelerators, it feels like. Right now, I'm actually doing a really cool one at Stanford that's amazing. It's the Stanford Latino Business Entrepreneurship Initiative, and it's amazing. It's a 9-week program. SLAY, it's called. It's kind of cool. And and then I'm also part of the Google for Startups Latino Founders Fund. So those are a few that I'm doing right now, but I've done from Venture Ready to Alchemist Accelerator, multiple things. And I always learn so much from the mentorship that they provide and the other founders that I get to work with. That's really where I do most of my learning.
I think you're going to hear a lot of the same thing, the formal groups, the Vistage, the EO, those kind of things, your industry groups. And then, but also find your passion and where you like to learn. For me, it's podcasting and listening to audible things at dark 30 in the morning while I'm walking the dog. That's my Zen time. And then being vulnerable, admitting to those groups what you're weak at. And I'm sure this is an old cliche, but it holds true. If you're the smartest one in the room, get in a new room. Make sure you're the dumbest one in the room, and then you're in the right room.
All right, let's give some extra love to our speakers for tonight. Make sure you stay with us because you will have a chance to mingle. We have a networking portion at the end of this. But we did want to thank our session sponsor once again, Edward Jones. They help people connect their money to their purpose and dreams, whether it's buying a business, saving for your dream home, or having a worry-free retirement. Our team listens to your vision for your life and creates a financial plan to make that vision a reality. And then a couple quick notes before we close here tonight. As you know, we need some funding just to keep this a free event. It's been awesome these past 4 weeks. We hope to be back next year as well. So scan this code so you can donate. Any small contribution does help us and keep this to be such a great event year after year. Also, please pay attention. Any resources shared in today's presentation with you will be available tomorrow via email along with a session survey. So those of you who have already met eligibility requirements will receive the grant application on Friday. So take a look at the grant timeline right here on the screen. It's also available on our website. And we know if you're waiting to complete the survey, you have to meet those eligible requirements, which is 3 out of the 4 sessions. But those surveys and all surveys will be available for you. We also will follow up with those grant applications on Monday for all of the, we will also follow up with those who need to complete the Session 4 survey to qualify for the grant application on Monday. Very important information, so I wanted to make sure you knew that because we know that some of you guys may be experiencing some technical difficulties, so we want to make sure you have that access. But once again, thank you so much for coming here tonight. Thank you to our amazing speakers and our sponsors for making this possible, and hopefully we'll see you next year.